About to change the fuel injectors up to some 36-pound injectors so I can run the supercharger at a more optimum capacity. I'm pushing a ton of air. So the first thing I'm gonna do is we're gonna take off that Egr valve. So I undid the two top ones, and then you got two in the bottom way down up inside of there. Way up here, I already took those off too. There they are. They're all 8 millimeters. So make sure you get those off. And then you got a top bolt that's sitting right here that holds it. That's a 13 millimeter, and it's another nut right up under that's a 13 millimeter. I just got to move these lines right here out of the way so I can get to it. That should get your Egr hose off. Then we can start working on all the other bolts, like, you know, the bolts that actually hold the upper intake manifold on. You got 10 millimeters there, there, there. Don't forget to undo your hoses too. This is capped off, so I don't got to worry about it. But I just popped that hose off there. You got to get all your air intake lines off. Get off your map sensor back here, the manifold air pressure sensor back there. And then we're gonna also take off this intake hose, pop that off. And like I said, I'm gonna be doing this as I go. I'll kind of show you. I'm not gonna show you how to unscrew screws, but I'll just show you what I'm doing as I'm going about doing it. All right, I got everything apart. Don't forget to unhook your battery first. But now I gotta unhook my throttle body position sensor here, but I got all the upper intake manifold bolts out. There's 3 on this side, 3 on that side. I got my Egr valve off. I just gotta move these fuel lines right here and that vacuum line. So once I do that, these lines here, once I move those out the way, I mean, this right here, you can release your fuel pressure with that. You're gonna have to take this off anyways. You release your fuel pressure with this. And gas is gonna shoot out. Don't worry about it. It'll evaporate and dry up, so don't even stress that. Just make sure you have your battery disconnected when you do it, because any spark, I mean, you never know. And then you also have a vacuum hose that goes to your booster, brake booster. It's on the very back of your intake. So just get a screwdriver and just push that backwards. It's all the way in the back here. Let me show you. All right, it's all the way back here. This is it sitting right here. So all you gotta do is get a screwdriver. Oops, here it is right here. Screwdriver, push that off. That's out the way. And then you can just unhook this sensor. That's your map sensor. Just unhook that. And this will come off with your intake, so don't stress that. Pretty soon I'll have everything off so I can pop this off and we can get down to the fuel rail. Okay, this here is the clip that holds your fuel line onto the fuel rail. So it'll be on like this. It'll be down into the groove. Just kind of pull up on the edges on this side and this side. Just kind of pop them out real slightly so you don't snap them. Pull it off. So now it's off. And then here's the edge of your fuel line. You'll see this little white cap. So what I do is I'll push the fuel line down onto it a little bit, and then I'll press this in. You can press it in with your thumb and then slowly pull it off. Don't pull this piece this way out, push it in with your thumb in, and then pull it off of the fuel rail, because it hitches on this little ridge right here. And so once you put it back together, you'll push it in, snap it, and then you'll use this little blue piece here and just kind of snap right back on there. That holds your fuel line in place. So now that my fuel line's out of the way, I can move all of this stuff and I have to lift the fuel lines up so I can get to that one little bolt that's up under the adapter that's holding the fuel line back there. And once I get that up, then the intake should come off. I mean, it's already like, you can lift it up and everything, so as you can see, I can move it up and down. But don't forget to get your throttle position sensor off. There's a clip on the top and the bottom, right? This is what it looks like here. So you'll have to, I use my right hand, and I just, you know, squeeze the top, squeeze the bottom, and just work off slowly. Just keep working back and forth, pushing back and forth. It's kind of dusty. It'll just pop out. And once it pops out, you're good. And you can kind of lift it a little bit to kind of gain more access to it. You can lift your upper intake off, the manifold off, and there you go. You can get to it a little quicker. Okay, this is the bolt that's holding on your Egr hose. So you got a top nut on here. I took the top nut off first, and then this presses down on your line on the little plate that holds that Egr hose. But once you put the 13 millimeter on here, screw this off, take this off, these Egr hose now can come off easier. And now you can get the Egr line out the way. You just pull this thing out the way like this. I already undid it at the bottom. You slide it out the way, and it's all over the place. But you can now get your intake off a whole lot easier. Let me pull this thing out. It's just kind of hung up on the lines down there. But basically, so there it is. let's get that out of the way. So there. So now your EGR hose is out of the way. And so you should be able just to pull that thing straight up. Let's see, how's this going? Yep, there it is. All right, I got 2 more bolts in the back. All right, where am I at? Yep, right here at the corners of each, you'll have 10mm bolts on each back corner. 2 10mm, so you should have 8 bolts total holding this intake in. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then it should pull straight up. And don't forget this hose, get that hose off, because without that hose, that's the hose that goes over to your brake booster. Get that out the way. Okay, I just took off that final bolt back here in the back. It's sitting right there. It's kind of hard to see everything, but it's just, you got 4. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. So you got 4 on each side. Yep, it kind of moves back and forth, so I think I can just pull it straight off. Hold on, let me see something. Oh yeah, it'll come off. But I need 2 hands to do it because I got all this stuff in the way over here, like this fuel rail and stuff like that. So I'll show you in a second. Okay, that thing came right up and out. There it is right there. So that's as easy as it gets right there. This thing is pretty easy. Here's your fuel rail right here. And so each fuel injector is connected. Like here's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, there's 5, there's 6. Looks like you got 10mm bolts. These 10mm bolts should loosen up this. So I'll have no pressure to it right now, so I'm not worried about gas flying everywhere. But you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 10mm bolts. And once you move those, this fuel rail comes up, your fuel injectors are there. These here little harnesses, you can pop these clips easy. So once you get these off, I'll probably take those off once I get the fuel rail off. I'm not gonna take them off right now. So, because I want to clean some of this stuff up while I got it apart, so I'll probably clean a little bit. But I mean, this is an easy job. I mean, if I wasn't recording, I could probably knock this out within an hour, easily an hour. Okay, to get your adapters on your wiring harness off, this little red clip at the top has to come up. Now, what I did is I just got like a screwdriver, and I just kind of put it up under the bottom and just said, poof, popped it right up. I did it on each one. Well, I got all of them except this one in the very back corner back there. So I'm gonna actually pull this so I can get to that one in the back. I can probably go get a smaller screwdriver. I just don't feel like walking over there. Okay, now to unclip the fuel injector, you see there, it'll be like this. Hold up for a second. This is how it'll be. It'll be on there. So what you do is, there's a little black press bar. You just press that. I use the screwdriver, just barely press it, and then just pull it straight up and out. Fuel injectors is off the wiring harness now. I still gotta get to that one way in the very back, but I'm gonna do it, and then I should just pop the fuel rail out. To get the fuel rail out, you just gotta get like a screwdriver or like a pry bar and just kind of slowly work it, because these things got O-rings at the bottom, and those O-rings are really pressed in there pretty good. So you want to kind of get a pry bar, slowly pry it out, because you don't want to leave any of that O-ring down in there. So just kind of work it out real slow, and that thing, it'll pull each injector out almost like 1 or 2 at a time, and you should be fine. Okay, the fuel rail's out. This is it here. So each injector is connected. You just slowly pry up. But as I was doing it, there's some of that stuff I was talking about falling back down in there, the brittle wire. So I'm gonna go get me a shop vac and vacuum all this stuff out before I do anything else, because I don't want anything to fall down in there. And a lot of times people put like towels in their intakes just to prevent stuff from falling in there. That's the reason why all that little stuff down there, that little brittle wire, you don't want to get into the intake, because it'll get melted inside of the engine. It just might burn and smell a little bit, but it ain't gonna kill it. Okay, if you want to take off your fuel injectors while the rail's still on the engine, I'm going to take all of this apart. But before I do, these little silver clips right here, you see these silver clips, they just slide away, because these slide into place. These fuel injectors slide into place, so they'll pop up in there, but then you slide the silver piece right onto the back of it, just because there's grooves in it, and I'll show you everything when I get the fuel injectors off. But that little bracket slides right into the fuel injector, and it holds it in place once it's on this fuel rail. But you'll have 6 of them. They're these little right here, but I'm gonna take all this stuff apart because I want to clean it up a little bit before I put it all back together. But I'm putting these 36-pound injectors on. These are the 4 holes. I'm going up to a 6-hole injector, get a little more fuel in there. And that's the fuel injector right there. So these two little wings right here, you just kind of pry the wings out a little bit and you work the injector down off the fuel rail. You'll keep going back and forth because this O-ring is really tight and it's holding it in there. Gas is going to come out, but like I said, get these two from around the fringe of that fuel rail. Get the little wings off and just kind of pull down. You got one in your hand. You got 5 more to go. My fuel rail right there. So I took one of the injectors off already just to show you earlier, but pretty much this is what it looks like. Don't forget to get that wiring harness off. And I use just some wire crimps, because I use just slide the crimps in and kind of wiggle, and the little Christmas tree clip comes right out. And so I pulled this thing out. I wanted to save those Christmas tree clips, so don't cut them. But I'm gonna take this in the house. I got my other injectors in there. I'm gonna sit this on a counter real quick and kind of run a comparison of it while I clean it all up. But there you go, fuel injectors. There you go, 36-pound injectors right there. That's the old one. These are the stock injectors that came. They're about 22, 24 pounds. These are 36. So, and these are 6-hole ports. These are 6-port injectors. And the old ones are only 4-port. So I should be getting 50% more fuel. So this fuel could be able to keep up with the airflow. And make sure when you get your fuel injectors, the actual adapters are right. That's the wiring harness clip right there. Make sure that that's right. Because a lot of time you'll get a 3.8 injector and it doesn't look like a Jeep injector. So make sure it's right when you get it. Okay, I'm putting everything back into my fuel rail right now. These are all my old ones. I'm actually going to keep these. I'm going to clean them up, put them in some probably plastic wrap and keep them. They're good. They're just stock. I'm using a little grease because what I do is, I put, this is how much grease I'm talking about. This. You don't even see it on my finger, but you just kind of put it on the rubber, because this has to slide back on this fuel rail, and make sure the back of it faces the inside of the rail. Don't have it like this, because you want to make sure that these sensors, these adapters clips are pointing outward. Just put it in there and just slide straight down. Come on, thing. Don't make me a liar. Okay, so it slides into place like that. But that's how it is. I gotta use 2 hands. I'm trying to do this on phone. But I'm gonna put all these in and I'm gonna go slap it back in the Jeep. Okay, there it is. They're all in there. These old ones here are gonna go back into the plastic. I'll throw those in the garage, label them. But don't forget, get a little bit of grease. I just got some high temp grease. And you just kind of rub a little bit on here. You don't have to put a lot, just enough so it can slide onto that metal and it doesn't kind of rip these O-rings. Because once you rip the O-rings, it's not gonna form a gasket. So just put a little bead around it and just, it should slide right in place. Everything's put back together. Looks pretty good. I left the EGR hose off because I'm gonna build a EGR block kit real quick. I'll probably do it tomorrow when I wake up, so that's why you don't see that EGR on there. But everything else is back on there. The injectors are in, everything's tightened down, all my hoses are on. I didn't plug in my mount sensor back there. I guess I gotta plug that in real quick. But for the most part, it looks pretty good. Everything's back together. Took a break last night because I wanted to get up this morning and make these block offs. I'm gonna do an EGR block off so I don't have to put this hose back on. I'm trying to replicate that, and I'm gonna replicate that. That's all these are. So once I get all this stuff, like this fits perfectly. It's kind of big, but that's okay. As long as the holes line up, that's all that really matters. It's a couple of millimeters off. But I'm gonna do this EGR block off so I can see how much more boost I can produce without getting that air to go back down the EGR valve. Even though the EGR valve theoretically doesn't allow boost to go in the opposite direction. I don't know. I just think something kind of weird with that EGR sitting on there. So I'm gonna try this and see what happens. If it doesn't work, then I'll put the hose back on. All right, there's the bottom adapter right there, that new silver piece right there. So that fits on there pretty perfectly. I used a gasket and everything, slid that on there. So the EGR valve is blocked off at the bottom. Time to go work on the top. Got the top one made on there. That's my top one. This hole is enclosed. That hole allows me to slide it back and forth just in case I don't get my measurement right. I got a little slide hole. But once I tighten it down, it should block off the top of the EGR there. But that's kind of how it looks like that. So there you go.